Ooh, wow, Eventbrite is already up 12%. Legend, I think, is a really good long. The J&J is their partner. They reported very good CARVYKTI sales. I really like Moderna, as much of a meme as it is. This Nemora situation is about to get pretty heated. Meme stock short, ANTHEUS. GPCR, this is the company that has their own Ozempic pill. It's all theirs, no partners. Corvus has been up a while. Toast Inc., the restaurant software company. Good old cassava. I have to look at farming more closely. That was a really good one. And breaking into investment banking, I think it's a networking game more than it is for like investing. Banking is a bit of a different kind of business. You do need to know your industry. You know, it's important to like really master your industry, but you also need to network a little to get that spot. And you have to be a very hard worker. All right, let me look at this stock that I should have been looking at all along, called Lantheus. Levodopa can keep Parkinson's patients doing well for a while, but there's no fundamental breakthrough in Parkinson's. Genetic Parkinson's is more and more recognized. Yeah, Europe is harder. There's less entrepreneurship in Europe. It's certainly not impossible. You can do it. Lantheus is $116. Yeah, so high conviction generally does mean more size, but you got to keep in mind that like you might have high conviction in an extremely risky stock, and you might have low conviction in a very safe stock, and you have to adjust accordingly. Safe stocks need a little bit of leverage, aren't going to move much anyway. So if like you think Merck is going to move or Pfizer is going to move, you know, you're hoping for a 5% move, 10% move. If you're in something like cassava, you're really talking about a 90% move or a 1,000% move if it worked. And it's just not the kind of thing you want to size up a lot anyway, or you should leave the sizing to your discretion. Because you might think, okay, well, no matter how much, you know, conviction I have, may not really have the interest of taking that much risk. I think Palantir is a high vol stock. Risk is also another, you know, so risk you can look at many ways. And one of the ways to look at it is permanent loss. You know, but another way to look at it is volatility. And another way to look at it is downside volatility. Another way to look at it is, yeah, I mean, I think I like permanent loss, but there's also like time value of money risk. There's all kinds of risk. So it depends on who you are and what you're doing. Usually if my name was tied to a short, it would drop 50% if I wrote it like a short report. That was like really my main. Okay, so let's look at Lantheus. These guys were like a diagnostics company, and like a lot of times the big money is made in these like pseudo diagnostics type companies or like semi-pharma type businesses. Okay, so here they have this drug. I think it's a drug. It looks like it's like maybe a kit. Pylarify. So it is fluorine 18, piflufolastat or piflufolastat. So it's an imaging agent for prostate cancer. Yeah, for PET imaging of PSMA. And so it works a lot like a drug, but obviously it's a diagnostic, but it's still a prescription. I'm not scared of doing a short report. I actually do think left might win, but you just can't be sneaky. Like you can't say everyone short this stock and then you're like quietly covering and not telling everybody. That's like pretty dirty. And I'm not saying that's what he did because I don't really know what happened with him, but like if you do that, it's pretty dirty. Oh yeah, I should kind of give management a heads up. That's a good idea, TM. I wrote this 200-page thing about you. Do you mind taking a look at it real quick before I put it out? All right, 70 million shares outstanding. It's actually 69,420. 69 million, they could just buy back 10,000 shares. And it's 69,420,000 shares. So roughly $8 billion company. Cash and debt are roughly equal. If there's one corporate deal worth studying or an activist deal worth studying that's important, ooh, good question. I'd maybe look at ValueAct's work in general. Definitely look at Carl Icahn and his work. especially the work he did with Alex Denner, a little more modern than his old work. Let me think what else. Maybe some of Third Point's deals. What was that crazy merger in the 80s? Bendix, Martin Marietta. That was a pretty crazy situation. There's a bunch of books about this era, the 80s era, on Wall Street. I would check it out. 1982, man. Kidder Peabody. Biopharma has lots of deals that could be worth studying, but the whole corporate rater era was pretty good. Yeah, Barbarians for sure. Another book was called Den of Thieves. I would even say like mandatory if you want to do Wall Street. But the history of Wall Street and the current Wall Street kind of bear very little resemblance, to be honest, but it's still worth a read. Oh wow, look at how much of their revenue is this new drug, or not new drug, but like this diagnostic we just looked at, 𝗦𝗏. Wow, this is a $1 billion diagnostic. I think it's pretty hard to make a generic of radioisotopes. They're like very annoying. There's probably a patent there too. If so, this is actually kind of cheap because it's still growing, right? And I wonder if it's gonna just like take over prostate cancer. It's got drug-like margins, like even though it's a diagnostic, 63%. Huge margin company, so like they need new management. So biotech's like any other industry. Yeah, that's a pretty wild financing for a microcap. This thing might run. I mean, I'm buying at the only price that there is. I could see my own orders on the tape. There I am, 500 shares each. You guys want to see some more? I'm trying to buy at 209. I might see it here before I see it in my interactive, which is even crazier. That's so weird. I put in an order for 500 and 679 got filled. That is bizarre. I wonder if interactive sent more stock to the market. And then I can look at an intraday chart with GIP, which is the same command as Bloomberg. There's not much trading, needless to say. But that's massive financing. Absolutely massive. No, I didn't get more shares. I just noticed I only sent 500 shares to the market, and the market executed 1,000 shares. I wonder if Interactive bought some for themselves. Something like that. IKT just announced a huge financing. I mean, absurd. Let's see. So it's just a trade for me, but Inhibikase. I don't even know the name of the company, all right? All right. Oh, they announced this 2 weeks ago, first of all. But it was only 110. This is why you should read the news before you just jump in like an idiot. Yeah, it's a little bit of bizarre. Okay, so it's imatinib. So imatinib is a drug a lot of people think works pretty well for PAH, but taking the drug by mouth gives it to every cell in the body, whereas it might be a better idea to take the inhaled version. So that's what they're doing. They're making an inhaled, I think it might be prodrug or something, but either way, yeah, this is imatinib, obviously. A lot of people say that they created 𝗥𝗡𝗢𝗡. There's like 10 different founders of 𝗥𝗡𝗢𝗡. Yeah, I'm gonna have to see exactly what kind of financing was done here, but Sands Capital, Fairmount, Blackstone, Commodore, never heard of those guys, any of those guys other than Blackstone. I guess I heard of Sands. Perceptive is very good, 8R1, B Squared, I don't really know, Nantahala, Stone Pine, and Spruce Street. So there's warrants too. Pretty generous deal here. And so that's a fairly direct deal. And then pricing is done, okay. And then I guess this was the closing. Oh, is that because of the warrants? I guess the warrants, if the warrants are exercised, it'd be 275. That makes sense. I mean, I don't think it's that exciting, but let's see. So we have to calculate the market cap after all the warrants and stuff. So they sold 58 million shares And then 22 million shares. So my math is any good, that's 80 million shares. And there's a warrant for about half. Oh, wait a second. Am I crazy? Or they're offering more warrants than they are comments? I mean, it's a little wild. But assuming I add all these up, which I think I should, I mean, it's still pretty attractive. Like, so 70 and 70 is 140, or 80 and 70 is 150. So it's 190. How many shares outstanding did they have before? I don't think very much. 7. Okay, so basically 0. So 200 million shares outstanding total now. That's assuming full warrant exercise, which would still, I mean, that would be a $400 million company with a $275 million cash balance, which for phase 3 inhaled imatinib is pretty good. I think there's other companies doing inhaled imatinib though. That's what I'm worried about. Aerovate Therapeutics. Oh, are these guys were public. Yeah. And the phase 2B failed. So there must be a reason they failed and these guys want to go forward. So Aerovate failed. That's Aerovate as well. Okay, so all these guys are doing. I don't think Gossamer is doing imatinib. Meeting billionaires is not some kind of impressive thing. I think Gossamer would be bullish if. Oh, so 𝗕𝗢𝗄𝗅 kind of owns this now. Okay, so I see there's. I mean, this is going to be a big market either way. Okay, so you have Gossamer. You got this weird little thing. They closed down. Kind of bizarre. Oh, their CEO died. That's crazy. Whole bunch of, oh, these guys were Dance Biopharma. Got it. No, I don't think shorting after good results is necessarily good or bad. I mean, it depends on the price, depends on a lot of things. I mean, they're two very, very different companies. Jane Street is a small company compared to Google. Google is a big bureaucracy. It's kind of hard to really do much there. Jane Street's CEO needs to be very good at management. That is the job. So to be able to manage talent in particular is the most important thing. The biggest red flag CEO of management, in my opinion, is not good, is how much they work. If they have a tan, short. If they're bald, short. If they're fat, short. If they're short, short. Bezos was involved at the start. Was never tan. He's not short, I don't think. He's not too short. And he certainly wasn't fat. Now, if you meet, it depends on how many of those you meet. If you meet all 4, forget it. It's over. Jeff Bezos is 5'7", so is Mark Zuckerberg, so is, I want to say Peter Thiel, so is Sam Altman. Height is probably the least significant one. No, Thiel is 6'1". And then bald is the second least significant one. But the other two, fat and tan, that's a killer combo. Yeah, 5'7" is like the average CEO height. It's hilarious. It's like bimodal. Then the other one is like 6 plus. Like the average CEO is like 6 foot plus. But 5'7" is definitely a weird billionaire status thing. Convicted for fraud, it depends. There's not too much sample size there. Michael Milken did very well after fraud, so did, what's the household name? Martha Stewart. She did quite well. We'll see how Trump does, obviously. So it depends. Depends on who you are. Each individual is kind of relevant. Well, Ryan, I don't know if you're new to the stream, but there's a company called SAVA, and they have a drug for Alzheimer's disease that is going to have a phase 3 readout by the end of the year. SAVA is not risky. It's risky owning cassava. It's not risky being short cassava. Calls on cassava sounds like a bad idea. The only person that needs to say not financial advice or something like that is somebody who's like a FINRA series holder. And they just have to make it clear that if they talk about an investment, that they're not representing their employer's views. But it really doesn't matter that much. Once upon a time, the SEC did not like it, especially if it was like influencing the market or something like that. And somebody was taking advantage of it, all that stuff, but it really doesn't. I'd say the SEC would care if you gave financial advice on the internet and then your firm did the opposite or you did the opposite or something like that. That would be, if you said you loved NVIDIA and then you started selling NVIDIA, it's a little, a little suspect, right? All right, yeah, I really like this Lantheus actually. Look at the growth of 𝗙𝗫𝗄𝗃. I don't trade microcaps. It's like for people with no capital. 20% growth, 30% growth, 40% growth. So how many diagnostics are blockbusters? I think this might be the best-selling diagnostic in the world by revenue. Obviously not by volume, but the only other one is like Omnipaque from GE. That's another really good one. I wanted to make a generic for that. See, I can lower prices too. Acting like I only know how to raise prices. Remember, lowering prices is predatory. Raising prices is extortionate. Keeping prices the same, well, that's a problem. There's a problem with that too. There's no pricing decision the FTC likes. It's all wrong, no matter what you do. They've never done anything useful, ever. Like, literally not once. And I don't even have any beef with them. My beef's with New York State Attorney General. So I don't even care about the FTC. Because, like, Trump's literally the front runner to be elected president, and he's a convicted felon. What does that tell you about what a felony means? Okay, so yeah, I like Lantheus. I wonder how many, let's look at the price of the product, okay? Very important. Wow, it's expensive. That's why it sells so well. 5 racks. So this got approved 3 years ago. It's $25K total cost, but the other guys are 17 and 18K. But it can detect cancer better. It's like a premium tracer. So it looks like it costs about $1,500 to make, given their margins. So $5,000 is a reasonable price, and they probably earn a little less than $5,000 given list price translation to real price. But let's assume it's $5,000 for now, which is I guess we just write 5, and then we could do 𝗙𝗫𝗄𝗃 units. So if they sold 145 million in that quarter, we could just divide by 5 and multiply. I don't think we need to multiply. That's 28,000 units, right? So 28,000 times 5,000. Now, the problem with this is that I'm not sure how much more they have to grow, because they're literally screening 200,000 patients a year, which there aren't that many prostate cancer patients, right? So you gotta be getting close to saturated. What does prostate actually do? You can Wikipedia that. Maybe we should. Prostate Wikipedia. It's part of the endocrine system. Muscle-driven mechanical switch between urination and all male mammals. Below the bladder, urethra passes through it. See where it is? Right there. Yeah, there's 230,000, but that's roughly how many people they're screening. And I guess they could screen. I like the lumen short. I mean, it's going to be tough fighting the momentum of the meta agreement, but like, and other, like, all of these like carriers maybe getting into working with AI, but it doesn't make that much sense to me. I'm not sure how much role telecom has to play with AI. It's kind of desperate. I think drug is okay. I don't think it's like the best buy ever, but it's probably an okay buy. I'm not touching it, but it's not terrible. Yeah, 1/3 of all men will get prostate cancer, but the metastatic castrate-resistant prostate cancer is only like 50,000 people. 3 or 4 million men living with prostate cancer. So if those people, 3 million men, need to get tested relatively frequently, maybe it still has a lot more room to go. Yeah, 𝗎𝗎 is probably gonna fail, right? Is that why it's down? People putting their short on? There's so many good blood pressure drugs. I mean, you can take ARBs, ACEs, diuretics, many different types of hypertension drugs. They're all great, very low side effects. I personally like ARBs the best. It's like valsartan or something like that. Irbesartan. Brilinta versus Plavix. I don't think Brilinta gets you too much advantage. Plavix is like kind of a perfect drug. Oh yeah, oh my god, that's such a good idea, Kaylin. Phantom share chart. SAVA equity phantom, AMC equity phantom, it's just a random number. Yeah, IBKR, there's so many of these where it's like just very detailed. And I think that like even when I look at DES on Bloomberg, that's why like people are like, why do you do the shares outstanding yourself and all this stuff? And it's like, I've had enough situations where it's just wrong. And I need to make sure that I get to do exactly right. It's not so much that it's difficult to extract this data. I think it's difficult to reason about edge cases. For 95% of the data, it's fairly straightforward. But for the 5% of the data or companies where, okay, there's some weird share class, the only way, or an ADR with a weird ratio, whatever it is, you just have to go through the filings and see. And Bloomberg takes the approach of, well, we'll just wait for somebody to complain. Now with LLMs, no, we do not ball in. I think that we are inaccurate sometimes. And my goal is that we almost have a function that's just super clean, abundantly clear, this is how many shares outstanding exist in all scenarios. Because remember, there's options and warrants for many companies. So depending on the price of the stock, the shares outstanding changes. And you would want to know if there's 20 or 30% options, or warrants are a whole other story, but let's just say options float. Most companies have 10 to 15%. We just kind of vaguely guesstimate. But some companies don't, and it's a real difference. I mean, if you're at a company like Datadog or Snap or something like that, you can add 20, 30% to the market cap. Oh, it's so important. I mean, getting these basics right is what differentiates between a pro platform and a not so pro platform. Kind of like Guild is saying, you have to, every mistake has a huge multiplier effect for trust. Every mistake is lethal. Because I'm sitting here managing a $300 million portfolio, let alone a $300 million position, it has to be right. It has to be on time. It can't be late. All that stuff is so true. If you can't trust the company's 10K filing, then there's not much you can do. But again, it's about the subtlety. Let's say a company has a contingent payment of shares. If they meet some milestone, they'll be issuing 10 million shares to somebody. Maybe the Musk situation or something like that. Well, when that event happens, you should update the share count right away. Not necessarily wait for the next periodic filing. Same thing with a financing. Company raises $5 million in a secondary. Do you update that share count? You should. Okay, so I'm going to mark Lantheus as long until I do more research, just some kind of low conviction, maybe 3. But yeah, I like this Lantheus. Kind of a mid-cap company.